Okay, guys, today we are going to look at the development during infancy. Yesterday, we have seen the entire development of fetus when the fetus is actually in the mother's womb. So, today we are going to look at it what happens after it's out of the womb. Guys, can you just give me 1 second?
Yes.
Okay, I just switched to my phone. I'm not comfortable with laptop voice. Okay, so this infancy development is divided into four stages: physical, psychosocial, cognitive, and linguistic. And we will thoroughly see each of these phases and how it constitutes to infancy period. So, what is infancy? Right after childbirth, up to the year of 2 years, the first 2 years of child, that is infancy. It is also one of the very early stages of the child development. It is not the shortest, but in the text, I mean, in our notes, it's given that it is the shortest span life part of the lifespan, but it is not true. But it is also one of the shortest. And during this phase, the child will learn to eat, cry, move, kick, smile, and play a little bit. So this is what constitutes to infancy period. Now let's look at the characteristics. So whenever you look at a plant, if somebody tells you that it has leaf, it has roots, fruits, you immediately feel okay, it is a plant. You can imagine it. So same way for a child to be called as infant, there are certain characteristics which constitutes to it. First one is, like I said, it's told it's the shortest period, but it is not. It is but one of the shortest period because it spans to 2 years. And then the child has to undergo a lot of adjustment because the child was very comfortable in mother's sac. But then once it comes out of the womb, it has to suddenly undergo temperature changes and so much of noise, people speaking, and it has to start eating, breathing on its own. And these activities, it has to completely adjust to this world and society. And this adjustment usually takes 1 to 2 weeks for the child. But in case there is any premature birth or complications during birth, this period may increase. And infancy period is a plateau in development. What happens right after childbirth? The child will start losing some weight immediately because it has to adjust to so many factors. The food, the way it's consuming food, everything changes. So initially, till it adjusts, till it feels that it is okay, it will lose weight, but then it again start picking up on the weight. It becomes more healthy and it becomes more comfortable. One simple example is, in case we move to a different city or a different country, for instance, we have to adjust to new culture, new people, new food, weather, everything. So getting adjusted to this takes uh, at least a month for us. And we are completely mature, we know everything, we are able to communicate, we are able to speak using language, but the child can't even speak. And so for it to adjust, it must be really difficult. We always hear moms complaining that sleepless nights, and then we don't know why it cries, it gets so cranky, we're not sure what's happening. It's because it's adjusting to so many new things. And from an infant perspective, it's undergoing a lot of things, and that's why it's so cranky. And we'll see what are those things, like why the child is cranky or why it's crying. So we will go through it in detail so that you understand life from an infant perspective today. And also, Bell suggested that it's a period of future prediction. What does this mean? Maybe the child, maybe once it's 2 years or 1 year, it will be more attracted towards music. You play a music, it may start moving a little bit. Or if there's any attractive colors, so it may go ahead and try to like play with it. So you will get an idea of what the child is interested in. It just gives you an overview, just like a hint, but it does not say anything accurately, because as the child develops and grows, its interest changes. And this phase is considered full of hazards. we have physical or psychological hazards that the child goes through, and we'll go through it in detail. So there is an entire topic dedicated to it. So I'll explain it there. Now we spoke about adjustments. What are the different kind of adjustments that the child has to go through? First thing is the temperature change. So when it is in the uterine sac, the temperature is around 100 Fahrenheit. But once it is out of the womb, it has to adjust. Sorry, I saw a message. So it has to adjust to temperature. Say it is born in India, or it is born in a cold climate, or it's born in a place like Canada where it is winters are almost in -42, -32. So it is extremely cold. Or some places might be extremely hot, Rajasthan, or some other states are like really hot. So from mother's womb, it will be in the hospital first, so it has to get adjusted to that temperature, and then to the country or the city where it is staying in, to the house, so it has to get adjusted to this temperature. So that is one of the first adjustment that the child has to go through. Next is breathing, sucking, swallowing, or elimination. So all of these are related. What it shows is the child automatically has a reflex. So nobody teaches, the mother doesn't teach it to breathe, the mother doesn't teach it to eliminate waste, or to swallow the food. Nobody teaches it, so it is kind of inbuilt, and it has that reflex. So because of that, it kind of naturally starts doing this, but still it's an adjustment for the child from the child's perspective, because everything was taken care by through the umbilical cord. It would get everything, the food and everything was just done through that. But now it's not connected with the mother internally. It has to slowly start getting adjusted to all of this. We spoke about hazards as being one of the characteristics of infancy period. So let's look at hazards. What are the hazards? It can be two types, physical or psychological. So the physical hazard that the child may go through is complication at the time of birth. So if there is any complications, like Dr. Anju was telling us yesterday, that it can be complicated. There's so many cases, so many scenarios during birth. So it can be a premature birth, or there can be, the child might be wrapped in the umbilical cord and then it's not able to breathe. There might be, for few seconds, there might not be oxygen supply to the child, and this may cause damage to the brain tissues, and this will again impact the child's growth and development. Also, if it is a multiple birth, that is, if it is twins, like it's born as twin or triplets, imagine being just one baby and then getting all the resources from the mother. But if it has to further share it between two or three, so the nutrition that the child receives will again deplete there. And after birth, again, the adjustment that the child has to go through will take longer duration, because it has to pick up on the lost weight, or it has to pick up on the nutrition factor. So it may be more weaker, the child may be more weak. And post maturity and prematurity. So we know that the prenatal development period is of 9 months. But say in case it's exceeding 9 months, the child is born after 9th month, or it is born at 7th month or 5th month. I don't know if 5th month is possible, but 8th month, say for that matter. What happens is, uh, it has to undergo a surgery. It may not be a normal birth, so the C-section, and during that, uh, uh, there might again be some complications involved, and this may physically harm the child, and this may lead to a forever scar on the child. What are the psychological hazards the child will have to go through? First thing is about the traditional beliefs about birth. This, especially in India, what happens is parents are expecting a boy baby, like Dr. Anju said yesterday. So this happens in a lot of cases, and maybe the relatives or parents are unhappy with the birth of the child. And there's also very popular myths, or beliefs that are there. One thing is, in case the child is born in Amvasa or some Mahale Amvasi, these kind of dates which people believe that it might not be that auspicious. And if they feel that in case the child is born in these days, it is considered bad luck for the family, bad luck for the you know um, health and wealth perspective. And also sometimes when the child birth may coincide with death in the family, so they say the child has actually taken away that person. And one more thing is, in case the child suffers when it's being born, like if there's some complications at the time of birth, or there's some illness or health related issues that is associated, so even then people believe that this child is going to suffer throughout its life, it's going to go through all the hardships, and it's never going to be happy. So this psychological mindset of the family or the society or the relatives may actually impact the child. Now, second is helplessness. When the child is born, I mean, look at it, it's so cute, it's so tiny, and it can't speak, it can't do anything on its own. Like the tiny, cute little thing is completely dependent on the caretaker, whether it's in the hospital, like with the doctor, or once it comes home with parents. So it is completely dependent on the caretaker. And in case the parents or whoever is looking after the child is not able to give adequate care to the child, this may again become a hazard. And attitude of the parents. Now, again, like I said, sex is one of the main factors for having a very negative attitude towards the child. And actually, this happened to one of my own colleagues. So I've seen it very closely, this scenario, because a baby girl was born. So, what the mother had to go through and what the child had to go through. So, it does happen. And say the parents are not that rich, or they're not able to even provide basic nutrition or basic food for the family, so then the child may face rejection and the attitudes may not be that positive. Think of a home where parents are so happy, it's filled with love and everyone's just taking care of the child. But think of a scenario where parents are like, "Arey yaar, like why did the child is even born? Like we didn't wanted it." So if that is a mindset of people who is looking after this helpless little cute thing, then this will again have a impact on the child. So this actually gives a milestone or an overview of different phases the child will have to go through. So it can be a physical development, or psychosocial development, linguistic development, or cognitive development. So this actually shows, how it slowly goes through the phase. It slowly start cooing and then babbling, and then it starts speaking one or two words. And even in terms of recognizing people, its behavior with a society. And also the physical growth, sitting, lifting, or slowly grasping something. So we will look at it in detail now. So we are done with the characteristics and hazards, and also what infancy period is. So now let's dive in and understand what constitutes to the development in infancy period. So first is a physical development. In this phase also, the child grows very rapidly, because when it's born, it's so cute and it's so small. So the weight almost doubles during the first 6 months, and it triples over a year. Again, it varies from baby to baby, but on a general level, these are the scenarios. And when the baby grows physically, like the width and the height, the entire dimension of the body, what happens? It gives more space for the brain, heart, lungs, and all the internal organs to develop more. And if you look at the baby's head, you need to support the head when you lift a newly born baby, because otherwise it may just fall out and break. I mean, yeah, I was speaking in Kannada, I'm sorry. So because the bones are very soft, like really tender, and as and when the baby starts to grow, what happens is this starts to calcify, and that is when the head slowly starts to support itself, and you need not hold your hands or like below the head to lift the baby. And brain, so imagine you are a fully grown adult, and whatever your brain size is, okay, and when the baby is just reached second year, like 2 years of its age, it would have reached 75% of the adult weight. So your current brain weight will be equivalent to 75% of the 75% of your current brain weight when it is reaching 2 years. And again, growth and size depends on the genetics as well as the environment. Like I said, if parents are very caring and if parents are completely available for the child, they may be able to provide better nutrition, better environment for the growth of the child. And if you look at the sleep, so the newborn baby hardly opens its eyes. So you have to force it to open because you're so interested and so enthusiastic to play with the child, to hold the child. But it doesn't do. It doesn't react. It just sleeps all the time. And maybe it cries or it wakes up only when it's hungry. It just feeds and then it sleeps. So this is how it is. But gradually, maybe once it's reached 3 months, slowly the sleep schedule will change, and maybe it will start waking up at 4 o'clock in the night, and it's sleeping through half of the night, and other half you have to stay awake with the baby. So it will slowly start becoming like this, and then by the time it reaches 1 year, the sleep cycle, like the day and night division for the child, will almost be equal, because otherwise baby sleeps through the night and wakes through the morning, so it's very active. So this cycle slowly changes. So this is just a small video which shows the physical growth of the child. Is the audio there? Can you hear it as well?
No audio.
No, we can't.
Okay, 1 second, because
Still can't hear.
No. No, but it's okay.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah.
I'll just play it again. It stopped. I'm sorry, I don't know what's happening.
If you can press that watch on YouTube, it will directly probably play from YouTube itself.
Okay, I think for this video it's okay because the writings are there, so it's just a background music. There's no words.
Then it's fine.
Okay, so this is you don't have to write anything from this video in the exam. This is just a video to understand how the baby grows physically. Now let's look at the psychosocial development that happens. What is psychosocial development? It is basically the child develops by interacting with the society, by interacting with the environment, by interacting with the people around it. So it has, so I'll tell you an example for this. Um, the child calls its mother as Amma because that is its Amma and it knows, and it's calling it Amma. But then maybe the mother's sister comes in and the child feels even that is its Amma, because the physical characters of mother and sister might be same, long hair and earrings or same kind of dressing. So it feels that even that is Amma, and maybe the neighbor auntie comes and the child sees and again it tells Amma, because it's not able to differentiate. But then it is taught that, see, this is Amma, this is Chikkamma, that is your auntie. So the child actually learns through what other people are telling, and it will slowly start developing this schema that, oh, this has like similar characters, hair and color, eye color or jewelry or whatever, but it is different person. So it slowly start correcting itself by interacting with the environment. So this is what psychosocial development is. And there is a psychoanalyst, Eric Erikson. So he actually came up with this kind of very similar theory, and what he tells is, our ego identity is constantly changing due to new experience and information we acquire in our daily interaction with others. So this is the same example that I gave you guys. It constantly develops, it constantly learns and alters the knowledge that it has through the interaction with people or environment or society. And he also speaks about trust and mistrust. What is this trust and mistrust? When the child is very small, like obviously this is just a newborn baby up to 2 years. So we are speaking everything in terms of 0 to 2 years of development. The child, in case, I'll tell two scenarios. One scenario is where the parents are very attentive. Parents are always there for the child. They're loving, they're caring, this warmth in the house. And parents immediately, when the baby cries, parents immediately rush and then they hold the baby and they comfort it. They give good food. They're always there for the child. And the second scenario is parents are neglected, or they're not emotionally available, they're not physically available for the child. It may be because they are working, or it may be because of poverty, or it may be any other reason, or any other social reasons we studied before. So maybe they're rejecting the child, or they're not giving a good vibe to the child. When the child cries, maybe they feel, God, how much does it cry, why doesn't it stop? So maybe they don't go and pick up the child. Okay, see, these are all very different scenarios. I'm just telling it to explain. I'm not telling in general parents are like that. It's just that I'm explaining both scenarios that could occur. And the first case is the child starts trusting. The child starts feeling that there is a happy ending. The child will have a hope for the future. But in second case, the child may start withdrawing itself from the environment. The child may feel that people are not trustworthy, people are not going to be there for you. There's nobody even there for me. So this psychological effect will start in very early for the child. It starts kicking into the child. So it's very important to be emotionally available and to provide the basic needs that the child require at that age. 0 to 2 years, what is required? It needs mother's warmth, or it needs somebody to be there physically for the child, to pamper it. So this kind of availability is very important. And if it doesn't get that, the child may not develop trust. And when it grows, it may have different kind of issues, and it might not even know why it happened. It might be because of this. And there are certain social behaviors. So we will see. First thing is attachment. Okay, the child in this infancy period especially, it is always seeking love and attention. I'm not saying adults don't, we do, but as an infant, it is very helpless, cute, and it wants affection and love from mother. And not just mother, anybody. It just wants to be picked up all the time. It wants to be there in your arms, and it just wants you to be there. Okay, and once it reaches around 6 months of age, or 6 weeks, sorry, not 6 months, what it does is infant slowly starts smiling at the mother, and it starts gripping at mother's clothes. When you're holding the child, it slowly starts gripping your hair, whatever it finds, your earrings or your chains, anything that is available, it's okay. The child will start doing this. It is a way for the child to actually express itself, to have some kind of attachment with the person. My uncle actually, even today, he tells that he remembers his mother's pendant. the chain pendant that she was wearing. So as a child, he always remembers when he was sleeping on mother's lap that she was wearing a pendant and he was very attracted towards it. There was something shiny about the pendant and he used to play with it. So he has that memory even today. He says that I always played with that, and that is a very fond memory I have of my mother. So these small attachments that the child form with its parents are very important. And this early attachment, it's called as indiscriminate. So what the child does is it just seeks stimulation from anybody. Okay, it doesn't matter if it's parents or somebody else. It just wants that warmth and attention, because in many cases parents may not be available. Maybe it is looked after by a caretaker or nanny, especially nowadays, or grandparents. So it's okay, the child is still okay with that, as long as it's just getting some random attention all the time. And even if the child is frightened, or if there is a difficult situation, the child always goes to its caretaker. It can be parents or grandparents, whoever is looking after the child very closely. Even in our case, if we have a bad dream at night, or suddenly something happens, we take out our parents name, like especially I say amma, like when you're in pain, you automatically say your mother's name, not the name of the mother, but amma or mummy, whatever you address your mother as. So even today we unknowingly say that, it is a comfort word for us. Smile. So this is actually, child cries first, the infant cries, but after crying it smiles. So that is the first way it's starting to communicate with adults. And early smile of the child, have you seen the child when it's too small, okay, very cute, a child, it will close its eyes, it will not even open the eyes because it's in that sleepy phase, but it smiles. You feel that maybe it's dreaming, and then it's actually smiling. And in our house they say, it's again a myth, but they say that the child is playing with God, so that's why it's very happy. So again a myth, but the reality is it's just a facial exercise of the muscles. And the child actually starts smiling when it is of 7-8 weeks, or like 3-4 weeks. That is when it starts actually smiling to its mother. Slowly it starts smiling voluntarily. And when it is almost 3 months of age, it will smile to the neighbor, relative, anybody you meet in the metro. So the child is just ready to smile, and in case you don't reciprocate the smile, the child again faces rejection there. The child will feel low. The child may not smile again. So this is something that happens. So if you look at any child in the lift or any random places, mall, when the child smiles at you, you automatically smile back, because that is our way of reciprocating, and the child actually needs that. Next is anxiety. So this is a phase wherein if the mother is not there, or it may be attached to father or mother, anybody. And I'm just generalizing mother and father here, because in most of the cases they are the ones who are primarily responsible for the child. And in case the mother is not there, the child just starts crying. It feels that it's losing something. And this kind of attachment anxiety, child will have this. And when it's around 10 months, when it can either crawl, or 1 year, when it's able to walk, it actually goes room to room and it starts looking for its mother. And also, um, if someone's gone out, it will look at the door and await them to come back home. My parents were always telling me that I would never let my father go out. If he's going out of the house, I have to be with him. He has to take me. It doesn't matter where he's going. If he's stepping out of the house, I have to be with him. So that was my role. So what they did is, they noticed that if he's wearing the office uniform, I would just let him go, because I know that he's going to office and I'm not interested in office. But anywhere else, I'm very interested. So what they did is, to deceive me, whenever he would even go out, he would wear office uniform and go. Because if he's wearing that shirt, I know, okay, this is office shirt. So he's not going out somewhere. So I can stay at home with mom. So I was very attached to my dad, and I remember this. So these are the kind of attachment and anxieties that the very small child will have. Maybe not like 10 months or 1 year, but a 2 year child will definitely know that the mother is missing, or like they're not in the room with it and it needs. And next one is fear of strangers. So how it is attached to its parents, same way it is very scared about an unknown face. If an unknown face comes, your colleagues or friends or neighbors, the child starts crying immediately. It's so cranky and it doesn't leave you. It starts gripping you so tight that it just doesn't get down. And but after some time, maybe 1 hour or 2 hours, then slowly child relaxes and it starts doing its activity. Maybe it will walk and it will try to smile at that person or go and then try to speak. So it does it eventually, but it takes some time for the child. But again, it depends scenario to scenario. Next is the cognitive development in infants. Now, cognitive development is again getting knowledge, and acquiring it, learning how to use that knowledge to interact with the society. Now, Jean Piaget, he is one of the very famous names who has come up with this theory of cognitive development. I'll tell you what this is all about. So what he says is the entire development, it occurs in various stages. And once you complete one stage, then you move on to the next stage. But how will you move on to the next stage? So if you attain certain maturity or if you attain certain knowledge, then you are eligible to go to second stage. It is just like how you are going from grade 1 to grade 2. So you have to pass the exam. There are certain criteria that you have to fulfill. Maybe they will teach you A, B, C, D, or certain basic poems or lessons, or maybe addition, subtraction. So once you are thorough with all that, once you're able to do it very seamlessly, then you are promoted to grade 2, and then life goes on. But this is what Piaget says. And he says for certain people, it need not be. So what we are telling, so 0 to 2 years, that is the first stage. But maybe a child may take 3 years to complete that stage. Okay. There can be exception. Now the child may not go from grade 1 to grade 2. It may fail the exam and it may have to repeat an year. So it depends on the child's learning ability, how quickly it's able to learn. Some kids walk very fast. I was very fast. My mom tells me, like, you did all the activities 2, 3, like at least 2 months before the actual, timeline. My brother was extremely slow. So it depends from child to child. And so now we know that he speaks about stages. And let's focus on the first stage. First stage is, in the next slide, I will give you a brief about it, but I will explain you what this first stage is about. Now the infant, they reflexively interact with the environment, all of their behavior. So if it wants water or it's hungry, it wants milk, so it just cries. If it wants a toy, it just sits and then it maybe do some action to get the toy. It wants the toy, that's it. It wants. It's not going to hear anything, and you cannot explain to it because it's a child. And anything that it wants, whether it's attention, food, or water or toys, anything, it will do it in a very reflexive and involuntary reactions. It is not planned and it doesn't think, should I do this, should I cry, it doesn't think so much. So it involuntarily does this reactions. And what happens is, as they grow, when all of these same activities like asking for food or attention or toys, the child actually thinks, they intentionally behave with the environment to get the response. So initially what they do, it is all reflexive, it is involuntary to get a food or to get a toy or to get any sort of reaction from the environment. But later on, the child voluntarily, intentionally do certain actions. It may point its finger to a toy so that the mother knows, oh, it wants this specific toy. So it is more of a voluntary, and it may ask, I'm hungry. It doesn't say the full word, but it may be able to tell its own way that it is hungry. So it starts intentionally doing this kind of action. Okay, so this is what the Piaget's theory for the infancy is all about. Now there are 4 stages. Okay, let's look at it. Sensory motor stage is from birth to 2 years. So this is what we'll be focusing on today because we are looking at infancy period. Next is pre-operational, then we have concrete, and formal operation stages. So I'm sure that this will be covered in the later units. And today I'm completely focusing on sensory motor stage. So what is the sensory motor stage? Like I said you, it is basically its ability of how it is interacting with the world, how it's able to use its skill or its knowledge to get things. And once it completes everything, starting from the how it was reflexively trying to get attention to it knowingly trying to get attention. So this is the maturity level that it has attained. And here there are 6 stages or sub stages. And once it crosses all these sub stages, it is able to, you can put a tick mark on all these stages. Then we can say that the sensory motor stage is completed for the child. And majority, like normal scenario is from birth to 2 years. So up by 2 years, most of the children will be able to cover all this. But there are certain kids who are like slow learners or something, and they might not be able to finish it, and they may take another 6 months or another 3 months to complete this stage. Now let's look at it. First is reflexes. So this phase is from birth to 1 month. It everything is just through reflex, either breathing or sucking or looking anywhere. So everything happens, and the child's interaction is purely reflex based. Next is a primary circular reaction. Here what the child does is, this is from 1 month to 4 months. The child will do a certain action. Okay, note that this action is not with the environment, it is with its own self. And this action will generate a stimulus. And with that stimulus, the child continues again. I'll give you an example. The child sucks its own thumb. Okay, so this is the action that the child is doing, and it is not doing it with the environment. Here, the child is doing it with its own self. And when it sucks the thumb, it feels happy or it feels pleasure. Like, we don't know what it feels, but it feels something. It is getting a reflex, and then it continues to do that. So this goes on in a loop. It doesn't stop. So it gets the reflex, a response, and then it again do. So this acts like a stimulus for it. Second, the next one is secondary circular reaction. This is from 4 to 8 months. Here, even here, it goes through in a loop, and the child gets a stimulus, but the stimulus may be from the environment. So the child slowly starts going one stage above and interacts with the environment now. Okay, so what it does, maybe the child will take a toy from the ground and it will put it in its mouth. So the toy is giving a stimulus now. It is acting like a stimulus, and then it feels good, it continues doing this. Next is a coordination of secondary reaction. Here, what happens? The child is focusing on a certain object. Okay, say the rattle sound. You have that toy, when you do dun 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 dun, it makes some dun 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 sound. So what happens? The child is actually listening to the sound. It shakes its hand. It shakes the toy. When it does that, the toy makes dun 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 dun. So it's listening to that sound of the toy, and that is acting like a stimulus to it, and it responds to it, and it again does dun dun dun. So this continues till parents are fed up. So this is this phase. The next is tertiary circular reaction. So what happens here is, it's more of a trial and error method. What happens? The child tries to do a trial and error with the environment. Maybe it is trying to put 2 cups together, maybe a bigger and a smaller, and it tries to put one, like the bigger one inside the smaller one. It's not possible. So it's trying it. It's failing, and then slowly it will find its way. Or getting a response from parents. So maybe when it goes out, it starts crying to get a toy or chocolate or whatever. So then it knows that if it is outside or in front of relatives, parents want child to be like very angel kind of child. It shouldn't cry. So what they do, they scold it, like, don't do that, don't ask like that. Or they may say something, so the child knows, oh, I shouldn't do this in front of others, parents don't like it, but when I'm alone, do it, chalta hai. So the child starts seeing the reaction from parents or environment or people or object, and then it changes its action. The last is having an early representation thought. So here what happens is, child starts having certain symbols, like they start using certain symbols. Like I told, to get a toy, okay, so initially how it is for the infant, if it cries, it just cries because it's either hungry or sleepy or the diapers need to be changed. So these are main three things why the infants cry. But later on, why the infants cry, parents can't make out. It's just crying because it needs the pink toy in the last row of the table. It's as complex as this, and the mother has to figure out why the child is crying. She has no idea. So what it slowly begins to understand is that parents have no clue why it's crying. You know, initially they were understanding why it's crying, but later they don't know it anymore. So it starts pointing its finger. It slowly starts to go to that place. If it's walking, it may either go there and try to show what it wants or try to grab it on its own. So this is the last stage. And if the child is successfully completed all of these phases, we say the secondary motor stage is done and it will get promoted to the next stage. Okay, I want to show this video. How do I show it? But guys, I need some help.
You're taking it from your mobile, is it?
No, this is actually, I'm presenting from my laptop, but my audio is from my mobile. But I want to like on the computer, if I'm owning the video, the volume is not there. 1 second. I'm trying to unmute, but still I can't.
Okay, you can do this. No, there's this
Because
tab
you're-
called Watch on YouTube, right?
Where is
You
it?
can go
Ah,
it's at the bottom
okay.
left.
Okay, I got it.
Maybe it will come from there itself.
Okay, let me try.
Is your headset connected to both laptop and mobile? Then it will have a problem in unmuting your laptop.
I think maybe my husband did something.
You just switch off Bluetooth for your laptop, it will work.
Okay, I'll
Oh.
switch off the
Bluetooth on your laptop.
See, that's why you need a husband to put your blame.
No, this is the truth. No, but even then I want to blame him.
Make sure he hears you.
No, he can't hear.
Shruti, can I play the same video on YouTube? I have the link.
Yeah, I'll just try this once last.
Okay.
Yeah, no, can you please play it?
Yes.
Share and more loyal customers.
One.
Piaget's theory.
No,
There's
was
audio
it from
coming.
mine?
You have to.
Yes. There's audio from yours.
You have to stop screen sharing, and I need access to screen sharing. Ranjit, are you there? Who's the host?
That is me.
Yeah, Vasita.
Yeah, I have
If she
stopped.
stops, she can share.
Yeah, can you share and just show that video? I really wanted you guys to see that video.
Argues that we have to conquer 4
Can you hear?
stages of cognitive development.
Yeah.
First, the sensory motor stage. Second, the pre-operational stage. Third, the concrete operational stage. And fourth, the formal operational stage. Only once we have gone through all the stages, at what age can vary, we are able to reach full human intelligence. 1. The sensory motor stage, ages birth to 2. In the sensory motor stage, we develop through experiences and movement our 5 senses. Our brain wants to see, hear, smell, taste, and touch as much as possible. First, we start with simple reflexes, and soon after, we develop our first habits. From 4 months old, we become aware of things beyond our own body, and then as we get older, we learn to do things intentionally. A key milestone is the development of working memory, or in Piaget terms, our realization of object permanence. Before that, our mom can show and then hide a teddy, and we would think it's gone. After, we understand that objects continue to exist, even when we can't see them. We start becoming curious about everything, We want to smell flowers, taste food, listen to sounds, and talk to strangers. To explore more, we move. We learn to sit, crawl, stand, walk, and even to run. This increased physical mobility consequently leads to increased cognitive development. But we remain egocentric, meaning we can perceive the world only from our own point of view. 2. The pre-operational stage, ages 2 to 7. Our thinking is mainly categorized through symbolic functions and intuitive thoughts. We have lots of fantasies and believe objects are alive. As we are not able to apply specific cognitive operations, Piaget calls this stage pre-operational. We learn to speak and understand that words, images, and gestures are symbols for something else. When we draw our family, we are not concerned about drawing each person to scale, but rather with their symbolic meanings. We love to play pretend, which allows us to experience something new and learn a lot. At around age 4, most of us
Ritika, you can stop sharing.
and ask many questions. We want to know everything. We
This
can
is
call it
moving into the pre-operation stage,
reasoning.
Ritika.
Yeah, we're moving to the next two stages.
Intuitive
You can
age.
stop.
Yeah, thank you.
Can we stop recording then?
Shruti, is it done? No, it's not yet done.
Sorry, yeah, just one last topic.
No problem.
Okay, so this is the last topic. I just wanted you guys to see that video because it very nicely explains the stage, and the rest of the stages will be coming in the next units. Now, the last phase of development is linguistic development. So here the first thing is phonology. That is, the child actually tries to communicate through various sounds. It makes sounds. It cries or it says other words. So initially after birth, it starts to only cry, and that is its way of communicating. But when it reaches around 2 months, the baby will be cooing. What is this is it starts doing vowel sounds like o, ah, e. So these are the sounds that the baby makes, and it makes very cutely. And after this, at around 4 months, the cooing turns into babbling. What is babbling? Babbling is combination of consonants and vowels. So it starts including both of them, and then it starts making sounds. So ba 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 ta 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 ta, and the parent will be so fed up, like don't stop, and it goes non-stop. It just picks up one particular ba 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 ta 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 whatever, and it goes on and on. And then from 1 to 2 years, babies will slowly start speaking. They will slowly start using simple words. So here there are different types. Okay, so say water is like pani, or in Kannada it's called Neeru. But the child finds it very difficult to say that. So what it says, Jiji. So in our language, when we are speaking to the child, we don't say Neer Togonba. Like it's like very high level. We say Jiji kodu ikade. So we try to speak in baby language. And I have actually spoken to a lot of my colleagues because they all have kids, and they say that uh, baby speaks in its own baby language. It speaks non-stop. It says a lot of stories, just that you can't understand it. It's trying so hard to tell you something, you just can't get it. And it slowly starts speaking in its own baby language. Like for water, how we told Gigi, or say it's a difficult word like banana or key. So key it cannot say, so it may tell tea because it sounds similar to now how you have rise or raise. It sounds similar, but it has different meanings. So same way, baby just tries to say whatever it hears, like very similar words. Or if it is banana, it says nanana. It leaves the part because it's complex. And also one of my cousin, his name was Moni, Ajay, but the baby started calling him Moni because somehow the baby felt the word is so difficult to say. This is what happens. The baby gives its own interpretation. It starts communicating, it starts using its own words, but in its own perspective, in its own simplicity. It does not say difficult words. The pronunciation becomes difficult for it. And also, if it is hurt, we say abbi, abbi aitu, like for the child. That means the child is hurt. So these are the small syllables that it starts speaking. And next is semantics. This is a Greek word actually, which means sign. And semantics actually means studying, getting to know the meaning of either words or sentences at this particular level. Now, is Shruti there? So, what does this mean? It means, am I there? It can be yes or no. Yes, I'm available right now. Or say someone calls my husband and asks, is Shruti there? So, what are they trying to tell there? They're trying to put in a request to him that, please, we want to speak to her. So, it is the same sentence, but with different meanings. Now, for the child, semantics, it just means that child is trying to first it will look at the parents. It is able to understand the language, but it can't speak the language. It sees the lip movement, it reads the lip movement, it sees how parents is trying to pronounce things. It listens to all the words, and then it slowly starts learning the words. It learns up to 100 or 200 words when it's around this infancy period. And by the end of this period, it starts telling verbs or nouns: mama, papa, doggy, ajji, nana. So these kind of words it starts speaking. And all of my friends, they told that maximum the child may speak 2 words at a time. So jijita or something like this, but it doesn't form sentences in infancy period. Next is grammar. So grammar is what? It is basically divided into syntax and morphology. It just shows in your language that you're speaking, what are the rules of the language, whether the tenses or how the words can be arranged. So this constitutes to grammar. And again, the child doesn't do much of the grammar. It just understands here, but it can hardly speak 2 words together. It can only combine 2 words, not more than that. But later on, it makes a lot of mistakes when it's trying to frame its sentences, because it gets confused with the tenses and the grammar of the sentences. Lastly is pragmatics. This is actually study of what people actually mean when they say, or when they are trying to use the language. Okay, here 3 skills are involved. We are using the language for greeting or demanding. So how does it what does this mean from an infant perspective? Infant cries and greets strangers. Later it may smile and greet strangers, or later it may actually ask the stranger to get a chocolate when they come. So this is how it slowly starts developing. And also changing the language according to the situation. So when it's speaking to parents, it may be very carefree, but when it is outside and it is speaking to a person who's like very strange. So when my colleagues actually get their kids to office, the child actually runs behind the mother and it hides. Mother tells no, she sings, like she says so many words. Mother wants to put out all of its talent and show us what it can do, but the child is so shy. And this is what happens, the way it's behaving. And slowly it may say hi, but at home you should see it's going to just go, throw, run, do everything. It puts up a nice cute face in front of everybody. And also the last one is doing various activities, or when the mother is cooking, the child actually sees what mother is doing, and it may take a empty bowl and it may try to imitate the mother. Here mostly what it does is it slowly starts to imitate what we are doing. So if we are in a laptop, the child also demands, it just takes a board or a pillow and then it thinks that it is keyboard and it acts like it is typing. So the child mimics here. And also, if you're playing with the child in a ball, you just throw a ball. When it's too small, it just takes it and it goes, or it just walks away or crawls the other side, because it's not too interested to play with you. It can't indulge in an action or an activity. But later on, by the time it's 1 or 2 years, it can indulge in an entire activity with you. It can just roll the ball on the floor, and maybe it can roll it back to you. It can do it few times. It's slowly starting to engage with you. Okay, I'll not show that video. I'm not going to do that. Okay, I'll summarize and I'll share the PPT so you can watch the last video. It is nothing, it just shows the entire development phase. So it's a nice video to just watch, and because there's a audio problem here. Now let's summarize what we have learned. Okay, we have learned about the characteristics of infancy period. Okay, and we have learned about the hazards. There are two types of hazards, physical and psychological. And then we started learning about the development phase, physical development, okay, and then psychosocial development. And here the Erickson comes in and he says about trust, mistrust, and there are also a lot of social behavior that is involved, attachment, smiling, anxiety, and fear of strangers. And later we have cognitive development, Piaget cognitive development, and we are focusing on sensory motor stage here. And lastly, there is linguistic development, which is comprised of phonology, semantics, grammar, and pragmatics. Okay, and these are the exam questions that are asked. It is mainly of the psychosocial development. So all see here, this part. The fourth point, where we are speaking about the psychosocial attachment, smiling, anxiety, fear of strangers, trust, mistrust. So all of these are asked. Okay, again the second time is psychosocial development. So this is an important question, and define infancy and characteristics and adjustments it has to go through. So again this we have seen. Then 4 components in language development. Yes, we know language development. And also characteristics again, adjustments again it's asked, and semantics and grammar. This is again related to the language development. So these are the questions from exam point of view. Okay, I just want to say a quote before I end. Okay, especially the infants, we learn to be happy for no reason, because the child always smiles, you know, when it's not cranky, of course. So you learn to be happy and to be busy with something. You know, the child just builds something, or it's so busy doing something all the time. So we got to be busy like that, and also to know how to demand with all his might which he desires. So these are few things that we can take away from this session. And thank you, guys.
Wow.
Thank you, Shruti.
Thank you, Shruti.